Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Real G Football. I'm Jeff Wall and unfortunately today I have no Sosa, no SG, it's just good old me. And we're just going to talk some Bundesliga. We're going to talk some footy regardless because we have to bring it to you, our fans. And we'll start off with the now very close to a potential eight-time defending Bundesliga champion, Bayern Munich. My goodness, man. These guys they have a championship pedigree. I think that's honestly one of the biggest differences between them and the likes of Mönchengladbach, Leipzig, Leverkusen, and Dortmund as well. No matter how talented all those teams are very talented. Don't misunderstand. Those teams are very, very good teams. But Bayern Munich has a championship pedigree. They have the youth, they had the experience, they have the skill, and they got the experience of winning titles year in and year out. They slap up Dusseldorf with a 5-0 win. Robert Lewandowski, this is his best season at least statistically, for his entire career, with so many goals. I believe 43 now for Robert Lewandowski. He's just a machine, man. I don't know. It doesn't ever look like he's gonna slow down, to be completely honest with you. He's a machine, man. He takes care of his body so well, and he studies the game, obviously, and he's just so clinical. He's so good at what he does. For me, I was wondering because, there was Robben and there was Ribéry, and Neuer's slowing down a little bit now. But still, Neuer's very good, and Lewandowski was the last one to fall, and I don't know when he's going to fall. It doesn't look like it. Father Time, yes, it's undefeated. But with him leading the line as their striker and having his best season ever, does that mean he's going to get even better? I don't know, but that should be a scary proposition for anybody, not just in the Bundesliga, but all over the world, because they are still in the Champions League and they have been looking great in the Champions League. We'll see when the Champions League does come back if that potential layoff affects them, because right now they're looking hot. They're on fire. Alphonso Davies, once again, in the goals again. This kid is so talented. It is unbelievable. I'm really at a loss for words at this point. But the guys right behind them, 7 points behind them now, so maybe not so close as it was before. They rebounded. They had a bit of a slow start against Paderborn. It was 0-0 at the half, and then they just exploded, man. Jadon Sancho getting his first ever hat-trick of his career at the professional level, and he made it a good one. He's still only 20 years old. He's 20 years old, and the season he's had with all the chance creation, all the skill, no one seems to be able to handle him. I'd put him up there as probably one of the top 10, if not the top 5 of the Bundesliga players this season alone, maybe currently going into other seasons, and that is, of course, if he stays there, because it's going to be really, really hard to keep a guy like Jadon Sancho in there for long. They obviously have other great players like Julian Brandt, who set up a few of those goals, who's been amazing this season as well. He's taken another leap after his Leverkusen days, and then Achraf Hakimi also got in some of the goals as well. And then there was Bayer Leverkusen, who only got a 1-0 win, but Kai Havertz doing it again. What a great talent he is as well. Another guy who's going to be tough to keep on his team at Leverkusen. It really, I guess, depends how many other of these great teams buy certain players, and the financial fair play and all the aftermath of COVID. How is that going to affect them? Maybe he might get another year. We'll see, but I wouldn't hold any hopes up if you're a Leverkusen fan. I think Kai Havertz is probably moving on, unfortunately for them, but he's been doing so great. He's pretty much been carrying that team so far and keeping them in that top 4 race, at least, probably out of the title race, but we will see, obviously. They've got a game against Bayern, which is going to be crucial. So does Mönchengladbach, who had a 4-1 win this weekend, and Marcus Thuram got to brace himself. That was an incredible performance from him. They're also trying to stay in that top 4 race, and they're just behind, they're within that striking distance of the top 4. It's going to be very tough, though. It's very crowded at the top of the table in the Bundesliga, and the other team that is going to be right above them and Leverkusen is RB Leipzig, who got another big win over Cologne. It was not easy, though. It was definitely not easy. A team of that caliber, you would think that they would dominate a little bit more. They were still good. By no means were they bad. but they just weren't quite that great. And you saw they stumbled a little bit last week where they could have had a chance to potentially, eventually get past Dortmund, especially if they had this one and a win last week. Unfortunately, they didn't. They do have the easier schedule, but it's not going to be a cakewalk for them to win. They have to have a lot of things go their way with Bayern losing, and that really is it. If Bayern doesn't pretty much lose these next 2 games, mathematically, I don't think it's over, but it's pretty much over at that point, because who else can really even challenge them? They have to at least draw one and lose one of those games at the very least to have any sort of chance if you're Dortmund, but I think it's all but over. Either way, though, this top 4 race is going to be very interesting with Leipzig and Dortmund once again. That's going to be a very pivotal game. And Hertha Berlin has been looking good as well this season, so that's another big game for Dortmund coming up soon that Dortmund's going to have to be very careful with, because they look really good. And maybe, just maybe, with a little bit of a financial investment, Hertha may have a really good team. Hertha Berlin may be the team of Berlin in this coming seasons and maybe seasons to come, and potentially make Berlin a big football city. It's a capital city, it's a massive city, but they haven't really had so much luck in terms of footballing footballing history so far. But we got to move on, though, to what happened crucially on the pitch. The story really was not... It was not Jadon Sancho's hat trick. Obviously, that's a great achievement for him. But when he scored his first goal, and something that other players did as well, which I'm going to touch on, when he took off his shirt and he had he wrote on his undershirt, "Justice for George Floyd" underneath it. When Hakimi scored, he had the same thing underneath. And Weston McKennie also had an armband that said "Justice for George Floyd." And Marcus Thuram, after scoring one of his goals, he took a knee in respect for what's going on. And personally, I'll just say, for me, I think this is amazing. This is great. This is great when you have a platform like this. This is what you should be doing it for. You should be fighting for the causes you believe in, and I also believe in it. It's a great cause, obviously. Black Lives Matter, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth. But I want to talk about what could happen to them. Because there are no political messages allowed by FIFA or the Bundesliga, I believe, both of them, and they could be facing sanctions from the German FA. And I really, really hope that they look at this and realize that this is not even a political thing. This is a humanitarian thing. This is a human thing. And I think generally it's sort of wrong. I understand, though, because there's the other side of it where these messages can become very offensive. To me, this is not an offensive message. I don't really know how you could see it as an offensive message. But should not be punishing them. Even where the ref pulled out the yellow card for Jadon Sancho after he took off his shirt. I understand that that's in the rule book. We all get that. I'm sure the ref knows that, which is why he did it. But I think at that moment, it shouldn't have been done. He should not have carded Jadon Sancho, because although the message was everywhere, which is great, it diminishes what he was trying to do. He was trying to raise awareness for what's going on around the world with Black Lives Matter, racism, and what's going on with the justice for George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and so many others that's going on. And that should not have been diminished because of some rules in football. I understand there are rules, and we're supposed to follow them, but sometimes these rules are just wrong. And I think that if the German FA punishes any of these players, that they're completely wrong with it. And I hope that FIFA in the future looks at these and tries to change this, because these players should never have a fear of being fined or anything like that, or suspended for something like this, for something like Black Lives Matter. To me, it doesn't even fall into the same category of what they should be trying to get out of the game. And now, what I will say is this. Throughout the week, it's obviously been a tough week for everybody, and I'm going to get into that. I'm going to explain that. It's been brutal. It's been absolutely brutal. For anybody who's human, really, it should be brutal. It's because that's what it is. It's an abomination. It's terrible. And a lot of people are being told, use your platforms, any platform you have. And it doesn't matter how small or insignificant the reach you might think you have. It doesn't matter how uncomfortable it is to have these conversations or to even share posts. I've been doing that throughout the week. That's been one of the ways I've been trying to help this issue, to raise awareness for Black Lives Matter, and put a spotlight on the injustice that has happened, so we can get justice for those who really deserve it. And I'm going to use this platform to educate those who might not know, because this whole thing has been about educating people who are unaware. And what I will say is this: as someone who is white, I cannot experience these things to the depth anyone who is black has experienced this and is still experiencing this. I can't feel the same pain, the same anguish, the anger, the fear. I don't have, and I've never realistically have had to. I don't have my children. I will never have to tell them that they have to be careful with what they say or what they do, or if they're driving a car, or even if they're just around an area. I don't have to worry myself about going into a mall and being followed like a criminal, like I'm going to steal something. I don't have to worry about being killed randomly in the middle of the day for no reason at all. And there's basically nothing I can do about it, because I've never had that. And that's what black people are going through. That's what they are experiencing, and that's the truth. And you shouldn't let anybody tell you different. And the thing about this is being silent does not help. And you don't necessarily have to, make a post on social media to raise awareness about this. You can just share other posts. You can share what's been going on, and when people do talk about it in your lives, educate them. Let them know that this is wrong. Tell them what's happened, and educate yourself so that you can really back this up and start educating people around the world, because this is something that does not just happen in America. That's why people like Jadon Sancho from the UK, Marcus Thuram from France, and Hakimi from Northern Africa they were all doing this because they know that this is something that happens around the world. Because racism is not something that you are born with. Racism and this terrible hatred is something that is taught. And I know that because I've met people like that. And partly because I was not born with that. I was not born with that. No one was born with that. And I was taught to just basically just love people, to care about people, and to judge them by the contents of their character and not what they look like. Black people are being oppressed, and they need our help. They have always said this. They have always known this from the moment that they could comprehend words. They have been able to understand this. Now it's our turn to help them spread the knowledge throughout our communities, throughout our lives, throughout the world, and make sure that this stops immediately. We have to accelerate this process. It can't go on any longer. We have to start changing our communities, and not just with the person next to you, but also, throughout your government. As much as you possibly can, do everything in your power to help them, because they need our help now more than ever. And lastly, I'll just say I'd like to send my condolences out to everyone in the families of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and everyone else that's been affected by these terrible, terrible killings, these terrible, heinous crimes, these tragedies. And it's absolutely heartbreaking. And again, my heart and my condolences goes out to you guys.